As the daughter of an immigrant, it is imperative that Black people from other places understand the disparate difference that they exist from Black people in the United States. It is not the same. Period. And ultimately, the best effort that we can do as a diaspora is to lead in understanding, not in judgment. So when I am talking to somebody from Sudan, from the Congo, from Angola, I am listening to understand their experience, not to undermine it. And I refuse to allow anybody from Grenada, from Angola, from any other place to come and try to undermine the experience of Black Americans.
All right, so I'm sharing my screen here, and before I get started, I just want to read a little bit on the topic from my video description so you know where we're going. I can already tell you I'm on the bad side, so if you're on the good side, you'll get your opportunity to say what you want. I will drop the link if you like. So the question of whether Christianity is bad for Black people is complex and highly debated. There's no single answer. There's no simple answer. The religion's history for Black Americans contains a profound duality. It's been used as a tool of oppression by white enslavers and simultaneously transformed into a powerful source of liberation, resilience, and community by Black people. Christianity as a tool of oppression. Getting into that, we would say, well, the biblical justification for slavery, and Christians don't even feel like I'm getting on you because really this is all the Abrahamic faiths. This is slaves in Islam, slaves in Christianity, slaves, whatever. Should a human being be a slave? Should a human being be forced into slavery? My answer to that is no. But when we're talking about Christianity as a tool of oppression, we get into the biblical justification for slavery. And during the era of slavery, some white Christians used distorted, all right, so-called distorted interpretations of the Bible to justify the enslavement of Africans. Passages like the curse of Ham were manipulated to create a theological basis for a racial hierarchy. And if you've ever actually read the curse of Ham, it is so stupid the way that it's written. It's so stupid. Literally, here's what happened. Noah, his sons, his wives, their wives, off board the ark, right? They're off boarding. And this is according to your Holy Bible. You can look this up. Now, me personally, I used to be a Bible study leader. I grew up in the Church of God in Christ. I'm allegedly related to Bishop Mason on my maternal side of the family. I digress. The point is, paternal side of the family. The point is, I've read every black word on every right page of the Bible, and that's the reason I'm no longer a Christian for people who really want to know. That is why, because I grabbed my concordance, I grabbed my Greek, Latin, Hebrew, Blue Letter Bible, and I studied, and I blew my own mind, and I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready for the Council of Nicaea. I wasn't ready for what I found, and it broke me. I kept doing the whole, what is it? That song Tennessee by Arrested Development. The Lord allowed me to drink some more. He said that I am searching for all the answers that's in front of me. I ask you, Lord, why you enlighten me without the enlightenment of all my folk. And then he said something because you set yourself on a quest to blah 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 to quench my thirst, but I am still thirsty. The Lord allowed me to drink some more. I kept seeking. And I kept seeking, and I was too small. My vessel was too small to hold the cup of knowledge that I had, and it just overfloweth. Okay. Anyhow, so here's a summary of the curse of Ham. Noah and his sons, their wives, his wives, they off board the boat. Noah is sick and tired of the ark. He's like, whew, oh my goodness, I'm finna plant me a vineyard. I'm finna grow me some grapes, make me some wine, and get white girl wasted. That is what they're saying the prophet of God did. They're saying he got white girl wasted until he was, how many minutes into the video am I? Because I want to know if I can say bad words yet. So Noah then gets asshole naked in the vineyard where he made the wine. Some people get the sweats when they drink too much. And Ham is like, Y'all niggas don't see this. Y'all don't see your dad over there like with all his shame hanging out in the open and blah 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 blah. And they're like, man, let that man be a man. Let him do what he's gonna do. And so Ham is like, y'all pathetic. Ham takes a garment and covers his father. And the drunkenness of Noah, he's like, you over here looking at me while I'm all in my bucket naked. So I curse you, yada da 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 ha bo bo sheet and ha, I curse you, but bo 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 bo. Like I shana na 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 na, I curse you. And now, because Ham gave a fuck about his naked ass daddy, now black people are cursed. Whole time, mind you, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, it's like, I don't know what you think all black people are, but if you're talking about black Americans, they don't even come from, allegedly, they don't even come from Ham. They don't come from the Hamites. They come from Shem and Shemites. But either way, the black people in Africa, especially when you're getting to the Sudanese phenotype, when you're getting to, certain phenotypes of blackness, the higher levels, the more dense levels, the more, well, human levels of blackness, get it like literally hued man, hue as in a color, come from Ham. So when you think of Ham, you think of the son Canaan, and he had the Canaanites, right? And the land of Canaan is literally Palestine, literally Israel in the middle of the land of Canaan. So I see why some people are like, oh, black people are Hamites, Shemites, whatever, are mixed. What a stupid reason to curse your son. What a stupid thing to say. What a stupid thing to do. Like, literally go read it. Literally go pull it up. It's just because he went and covered his drunk dad, covered that man's body, did something good, and got something bad in return. And that's what they used for hundreds of years to say, this is why you're cursed. The mark of Ham is upon you, and it's your blackness. Isn't that stupid? Like if you divorce yourself just really quickly from your cognitive dissonance, because you have to divorce yourself when you're a Christian, and you can't tell me nothing because I grew up this way. When you're a Christian, there are certain parts of your intellect that you have to divorce yourself from. You have to divorce yourself from a level of critical thinking to take something like this and say, yeah, that's why you should be a slave. Because out of all Noah's sons, you had the most humanity. Out of all Noah's sons, you had the most compassion, and you decided to cover your naked dad like you're supposed to, like a good son should. But because he was drunk and couldn't understand it, you gotta curse that sticks like grits. That's the literal story. It ain't but a few lines in the Bible. If you don't want to pull it up, if you don't know how to pull it up, I can pull it up for you later. BibleGateway.com used to be my shield and my sword when I was a Christian, and I was always in it, always in it. So, passages like the curse of Ham were manipulated to create a theological basis for racial hierarchy. And then you have controlled Christianization. That's another issue. Slave owners often resisted converting enslaved people, fearing it would lead to demands for freedom. So when conversion efforts did occur, it was done on their terms, modified Bibles, pages ripped out, with emancipatory passages like the book of Exodus removed. Those kind of Bibles with all these pages ripped out and edited were given to the enslaved people, were given to our enslaved ancestors in America. Plantation preachers selected by slave owners preached a message of obedience to the masters. And if you wonder what inspired me to talk about this today, I was just watching Empress Radio, and there is some pastor, some couple of pastors, a black man and a white woman, whatever they were doing, they were human trafficking. And obviously human trafficking makes me angry, but then when you pull in children, I'm furious. And it's like, what is the deal with the church all the way from Charlemagne, all the way from the Catholic Church, all the way from the 600s? What is the deal with y'all buying and selling people? What is the deal with human trafficking as a whole? And I'm like, when are we going to believe Christians about their religion? When are we going to say, all right, fine? Because we're like, oh, you got to judge the Christian by Christianity. Don't judge Christianity by the Christian. And we say these lovely beatitudes about how, the religion is perfect and the man is not. But I'm just like, what is the religion good for if it's not perfecting the man? I'm not asking you to be perfect, but I'm asking you to be in the process of being perfected. If you're really walking and talking and imbibing and drinking that Bible, if you're really doing that, I promise you it'll change you. If you're really walking and talking Islam, this is how you get somebody like Malcolm X, who went from a pimp and a pusher and like basically a bitch ass nigga into probably the political love of my life. I've never seen a thing. I've never seen a leader. I've never seen a thing more shiny, more beautiful than Uncle Minister Malcolm. I haven't. But that's because he took the principles and he applied it to his life. He didn't just get up and pray and go do the same thing over. It changed the way he ate. It changed the way he interacted with people. It changed the way, like his level of self discipline. It changed him from the inside out. And when you're really applying just half of these principles, it don't even got to be all of it. You know, Malcolm was very much given to a Sufi understanding of Orthodox Islam once he left the fold of, black black nationalist Muslims in America. And Sufism is like somebody, I used to be a Sufi. And I mean, I could still gray area Sufi or whatever. But when I converted to Islam, although I got caught up with Salafis, I was a Sufi. The Alawi Tariqa, family of the Prophet Muhammad, blessings and peace be upon all the prophets. I'm not, going to curse no prophets over here, but it's like turning on a shower inside of you. It will, that song, if you grew up Christian, won't it make you clean inside? Won't it make you clean inside? Like it will just clean up your insides if you are really living that life. If you are really living that life, what is going on with these pastors and their Ponzi schemes? What is going on with these pastors putting these women they're trafficking on Plan B, and they got 3-year-old kids chained up here and there and don't know nothing but trafficking, don't have any memory of anything other than being trafficked? What is with these papal leaders? What is with the bishops? What is with the Catholics? What is with all of these churches? And my thing is, I'm sitting back and I'm like, maybe that's just their religion. Maybe I ought to believe them. Because the Bible is the first book that ever taught me about the fruits of the Spirit. The Bible is the first book that ever taught me about, and you shall know a tree by the fruit it produces. So when you keep producing all this child touching fruit, I'm thinking that's at the root. When you keep producing all this human trafficking fruit, I'm thinking that that's because of the root. And for those of you who don't know who Charlemagne is, Charlemagne Erskine, we know Charlemagne the God, but we don't know, Charlemagne Erskine of Europe, who was allegedly commissioned by God to start the Catholic Church, slaughtering, a group of 5,000 people in Europe or whatever it was, and commissioning all these good ship Jesuses to go pick up people and enslave them. And now you got the white man's burden and manifest destiny, and it's your destiny to go civilize the darker races of the world, and God chose you, and God chose you and put you over people. And I'm like, if you're a black Christian, that if you're a black Muslim, because one of the tenets of destiny of Islam is qadrullah, and that's just like divine predestination. And so it's like if you belong to these religions, and then God definitely set white people over you. That was his plan. That is his will for these people to lord over you. If you're really walking and talking that book, if you're really internalizing what the faith teaches you. People know the five pillars of Islam, but people don't know that Islam also has 6 tenets. There are pillars of Islam, and there are tenets of faith. And one of the tenets of faith is qadr. Qadr means destiny, divine predestination. And it's basically, I can say it in Arabic, I can say it in English. Amantu billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rasulihi wal yawm al-akhir wal qadri khayrihi wa sharrihi min Allah wal ba'di ba'da al-maut. And then, there's only one God, la ilaha illallah, right? So it's to believe in destiny that good and bad both come from him. That's the part that I'm getting at. That good and bad both come from God. So these people with this almighty devil theory where, oh, the devil made me do it. It's like, nah, the devil ain't all powerful like you're making him out to be. He probably not even worried about you. I mean, I won't say he's not worried about you or tempting you or whatever, but this, like these good and bad things, whatever it is, it came from God. That forest fire, those wildfires, what's going on in Palestine, Libya, Gaza, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and God damn it, these United States, all of that is your God. All of that is your God kicking it. Like, yeah, that's my will. Pump up the volume. This my jam right here. When people are like, oh, it's a test, it's a test, a test for what, girl? And how thoroughly do you need to be tested? You growing gray hair. When does it stop? When do you pass? When do you graduate? When you damn die? When do you get some peace? Anyhow, if you're looking at my screen, it's because I didn't make a thumbnail yet, so I shared my screen and I'm just going to have to make a thumbnail with you. But I just want you to know what the topic of conversation is before we go any further. So there is the issue that Christianity undermines African cultures because in some region Christianity's contributed to the demise of African customs, which were deemed pagan. I used to think the worst thing in the world to call somebody was a pagan because I was so Christian. And after being so Christian, I became so Muslim. And before I became so Muslim, I had a real hard stint as, this Hebrew Israelite cleaning out my house for the Passover. I'm telling you, I was Abrahamic faith down to the socks. What a Biggie Small says, black and ugly as ever. However, I stay coochie down to the socks, rings and rots filled with rocks. I stayed Abrahamic faith down to the socks. And it blew my mind. Blew my mind in the total opposite direction. So you have these customs that are deemed pagan. So things that your people actually came up with, things that actually come from you before Christianity. These loa, these ancestral worship, these earth spirit venerations, um, um, Olodumare, Shango, Oya, Oshun, Ochosi, Ogun, like all these different things that actually came from your people that you can claim is all bad. And this is why when everybody else participates in their culture, I'm telling you, it's just as specific. We go into nail shops all the time. Every time you go and get your nails done, there's a big fat ass altar. There's a big happy, fat, laughing Buddha with all kind of tangerines and Starbucks and burning incense everywhere you go. But when black people see a black person has an altar, we flip the fuck out. We're like, "Ooh, I ain't down with that ooga booga boo shit. Ooh, I can't do it. That's not of God." It's like your nail place ain't of God. Where you go to shop for your hair products, that hair store ain't of God. Like all these people, they're chilling with their ancestors and they're chilling with their egregores. But there's something about African spirituality. There's something about Aborigine spirituality that people are like, ooh, pagan, ooh, kafir, ooh, lost, heathen. Kafir means heathen, and kafir means disbeliever in Islam. And kafir, because it means heathen and unclean, it's nigger in Afrikaans in South Africa. Just so we're clear, right? Abrahamic faiths did this. So you have the hush harbors, quote unquote, and secret worship. In defiance of the white controlled religious services, enslaved people held secret worship gatherings in isolated locations. These hush harbors, they created a distinctive form of African American Christianity, blending with Christian faith and African traditions and spiritual. Now, that I can kind of fuck with, and that takes me back to the Kojic Church because people get real hard on hoodoo and voodoo as Black Americans. And I don't know how you can do that if you ever grew up in the Church of God in Christ, because all that is hoodoo on Christianity. All that is a mix. All that praying over that oil and getting that olive oil and anointing your forehead, all of that tarrying and moaning and humming and being shut in and shouting and catching the Holy Spirit, all of that is hoodoo. Some of that is voodoo, and all of it's beautiful. Like, I do see how people could subscribe to a very African American form of Christianity because of what we've made it to be. It's just like how you have people in other countries who they look like they're Catholic, but really, their favorite saint is the Santissima Muerte. They're praying to the Santa Muerte. They're petitioning her. Blah 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 blah. Like this happens in Mexico. I think the Santa Muerte is dope. I've worked with her. She's responsive, um, very much so. You better have your offering. Um, but I'm saying like even the Santa Muerte, if you're looking at her as the unofficial Catholic saint, Santa Muerte goes all the way back to Mictacasihuat, right? And if you've ever learned anything about Aztec, Mayan, Olmecas, the Olmec people, you've heard of Kulkulkan, right? From the Black Panther #2. I haven't seen it, but I saw some of the previews. Kulkulkan is basically Quetzalcoatl, Quetzalcoatl. And so in this language called it's called now what? Like now what, ho? It's pronounced now what, but if you look at it, it looks like it says Nahuatl. And basically what I'm saying that is like even the Santa Muerte goes all the way back to Mexico's and Mesoamerica's indigeneity. So yeah, these Mexicans, they're big Catholics, but like when you're looking at this unofficial Catholic saint, it goes all the way back to their indigeneity. So it's like it's not criminalized. It's because of this relationship with death. It's because of this relationship with the Mictacasifat. It's because of this relationship with the Santísima Muerte that you have beautiful things in Mexico like the Day of the Dead. You have people who can absolutely come to terms with death and beautiful death celebrations. Going to cemeteries and putting marigolds all around, cleaning the bones of their ancestors and taking them their favorite drinks and things and like really kicking it at, everybody else finds the cemetery scary. But you have this beautiful culture where they've been connected to this. So you see, ooh, Catholic, but really it's like, you know, it's more indigenous belief infused, with whatever agrees with the indigenous part of it, it's infused. Likewise, you have the Black American who has this Church of God in Christ, right? And we were formed out of segregation, right? Because these holy ass people couldn't be bothered to go to church with a Black person. So from segregation, you get Bishop Mason, who founded the Church of God in Christ, the Kojic Church, you know, Sammy Lister, Chris Tucker, all kinds of Black American Christians come from the Kojic Church. So going down through, and let me just get over here really quickly. Me too. I started reading from front to back. You know what did it to me, Taj? Somebody said to me, it was a guy named Herb. We had a Bible study at the University of Washington, and it was called Keeping It Real for Christ. It was Herb, and why am I forgetting the other guy's name? Bald-headed Alpha. Anyhow, he said, I would be an ungrateful servant if I lived this life, my entire life, and died without reading the love letter that Jesus Christ wrote to me in the form of the Bible. And I was so convicted in my spirit. I was like, you know what? Hell yeah, you're absolutely right. And I mean, I put that Bible right on top of my studies. I'm like, all right, I got a lecture at 8 o'clock. I got to study for 2 hours for that. I got another lecture at this o'clock, and I got to study for 2 hours for that. 4 hours for the next one, this one for the final. And then it's me and my Bible. Ooh, we finna get down. Right. And I would always have these interesting things to say at the Bible study because I was studying the Bible so freaking hard. I couldn't help but finish people's sentences. And that shit is annoying when you're dealing with a know it all. I understand. But like, I was really there. I was really in this. Like, one of my biggest regrets is that I never slept with the quarterback of our football team. Now, the quarterback of my football team, I'm not going to say his name, but he so thought he was going to marry me. But I was so Christian. I'm just like, look, when we get married, okay, fine. But you do your little college thing. You go sow your royal oats. I'm gonna be here, but then I ended up converting to Islam, and I wasn't gonna marry a non-Muslim. So there that went. The regret. But just holy, just holy as hell, Bible thumping as hell, and I'm just like it had the exact opposite reaction. I was like, oh my God, I've been bamboozled and run amok. And I understand that religion is a self place for people. So I do want to tread lightly. Um, Hey, my sister. Oh, my baby. Hey, little sis in the bushes. Well, work it, girl. In the bushes, working. Well, work it, girl. Our name advance. The word antichrist is it's hidden in the word facts. It's hidden in the word Christianity. You shuffle those words around just a little bit, and you'll get antichrist out of it. Absolutely. Human trafficking is one of the fruits of the false. Why are all of you doing it if it's not your religion? Why are all of you doing it? Now, my mama's pastor, Reverend Jesse Townsend, obviously, man of God, never did nothing like that. Like, I still to this day, I love my mama's pastor. I love his wife. I love his family. I love that church. I love, like, just wonderful people. But again, it's a very, very African American form. It's a very Negro form of the religion. It's not this non-denominational Joel Osteen. It's not the colonizer stuff. And so I don't want to speak too much about that because to this day I get strength from gospel music. To this day, yeah, I get strength from Negro spirituals. I'm not saying there's no power in this. I'm just saying Christianity as a whole, as a foundation, as it was brought to us. I'm like, is this really good for you? Tell me how turning the other cheek helped you and Dr. King and the civil rights movement. Tell me how it helped. Did it help anybody or did it sabotage Malcolm? Because one of the last things Martin said before he passed away is, I fear I've integrated my people into a burning house. And he didn't want to turn no more cheeks. He wanted reparations. And he decided to fight. And before he even got the fight past his throat, they assassinated that man. Hey Zero, good to see you here. So I'm going to finish reading the video description and then I'm going to talk to you while I am creating the thumbnail for this video. That is a hot mess. The thumbnail is just me right now. So I was just saying with this whole hush harbor thing, as in the secret worship where you add certain things from your Aborigine cultural past to the Christianity, I fuck with that. Okay. That's what I was saying about that. And a hush harbor is just like hush hush, like we mixing it with this, we mixing it with that. But as long as it's consistent, we keep that on the hush. We don't sit up here and say we're worshiping Miktikasi flag. We're just like, oh, Santa Muerte, blah, 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 blah. Catholicism, sure. Anyhow, so the Black church as an institution, after gaining autonomy from white congregations in the 18th and 19th centuries, Black churches became the central institutions in African American life, the hub of community and organizing. And no one can take that away from the Black church. The church served as a center for education, community organizing, and social support when Black people were excluded from white society. That's facts on facts on facts. So I'm never going to tell you to disrespect the church as I'm never going to tell you to remove that from your history. I'm never going to tell you to make that unsacred to you because that is absolutely sacred to me, even as I speak. The birthplace of activism, the Black church served as the institutional backbone of the civil rights movement, with many of its leaders, like Martin Luther King Jr., drawing on the biblical message of justice to fight racial inequality. Right? Right? So I'm not saying don't be grateful. I see in my life, as a person who has gone from religion to religion to religion, when I look at Black people who don't grow up in the church, I almost feel sorry for them. Even my journey as a convert, people will, do you ever wish you were born Muslim? I'm like, no, sir. No, sir. I needed my upbringing. I needed to be in the seat of my culture. I needed all of this, honey. I love how all of this made all of me and all of my people, my family, my mother, my siblings. Like I needed all of this. I needed all them symbols. I needed all them tambourines and church fans, honey, and church hats, honey. I needed all them Ursha board white gloves and collection plates. Um, I needed all of that. So I'm never going to tell you that this is not sacred, your history with the Black, especially with the Black church. But I'm just saying in general, this Christianity, this cross, this KKK, this Ku Klux Klan, these burning illuminated crosses in your yard, these lynchings, these human trafficking, this Charlemagne Erskine, and from the rooted to the tutor, it's just I feel like I need to believe these people when they say they are who they are. And I'm like, you keep showing me human trafficker. I'm guessing that human trafficking is your way of life. That's your religion. So many of these MAGA people, they're so Christian. I'm just like, yeah, white supremacy is your religion. What is it, a Catholic Presbyterian or something like that? I watched a little half Indian girl talk about if you meet a Catholic Presbyterian, understand that those are Christian nationalists, and a Christian nationalist is a white supremacist. And they think God, they're like, yeah, God told us to do this. God told us we are superior. God told us that we're the gods on earth. And I'm like, let me just believe these people and move to the left or to the right. There ain't no kumbaya with you if you think you're my God. If you think you are who God left in charge and that you get to do with me and my people and any child and any person of color, whatever you, I'm like, I can't do this with you. Right? Because that's why the children in Palestine who get pew pew through the private parts, some of the most horrible things you've ever seen, that's why they don't matter. Because oh, you've got the wrong religion. Oh, it doesn't matter what happens to them. Whoever comes to them to blow them away doesn't matter because their God said so. And I'm like, all right, well, if this is you and your God, respectfully, I don't want nothing to do with you or him. So you have the portion of this conversation where you get to liberating theology, where Black Christians drew inspiration from the Bible's themes of deliverance and liberation. They saw Jesus not as a white figure, but as an emancipator who came to set captives free. Now, that may help as a concept, but when I tell you, when I tell you to this day, Black people cannot be comfortable with other Christians and say Jesus is Black. Anytime you say that, well, does it matter what color he is? Does it even matter if salvation? And I'm like, dude, it all of it matters. All of it matters. Every detail of every prophet that you're like, and that's another thing that I got into it with the Muslims over and why I can't deal with the Muslims anymore. Because even Islamic theology and Islamic resources teach that Moses and Jesus and Mary and Zechariah were Black. I mean, nappy head. I mean, dark skin. I mean, all the features, honey. I mean, the whole entire phenotype. But if you say this stuff out loud, people, oh, astaghfirullah, like, ya Allah, Adim, like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, we have nasheeds, we have songs about how Arab the Prophet Muhammad is. Blessings and peace be upon him and the rest of them. But I'm just like, we can't even. Why can't we talk about how Black Moses is? His description looked like a whole NFL player. It's given Xavier Leggett like he like real Black, real Black. But you couldn't have those conversations with people because they want you to think that the only Black person who God ever gave a shit about was Bilal. And Bilal wasn't even a prophet. He was just the first person to make the call to prayer. In Arabic, it's called an adhan. And I'm just like, y'all act like Bilal and Luqman are the only Black people in Islamic history. The first martyr of Islam was a Black woman, Sumaya. Like the woman who the Prophet Muhammad was an orphan. Both of his parents died, so the woman who took care of him was also Ayman, was a Black woman. Even in this lineage of, but you can't say shit to them people. You can't say shit to them Arabs, them Asians, even them white converts. You can't say shit to them about all these people being Black. I mean, not all of them, but like there's so many of them. Even Solomon, hell, the Queen of Sheba, the Candace, the Bilqis is how you say her name in Arabic. And I'm just like, all these is niggas. Like, are like literally like, don't even let me say nigga because nigga is offensive, but like literally like niggas, Negus. When the Muslims couldn't go nowhere in Arabia and they were getting ran up out of that bitch, they went to Ethiopia, they went to Abyssinia. What was the king called? Negus. Literally the Ethiopian royalty. Negus. Like, have somebody who speaks Amharic or Tigrinya tell you. And you can't talk to them about that stuff. And it's like, you making me uncomfortable. I can't even pray with you. The Muslim is mandated to pray shoulder to shoulder and foot to foot when they pray in congregation. But if you are black in congregation with anything but other, they will run from you in the prayer. They don't want you to touch them. They think you're filthy, they think you're disgusting, and they don't want to be equal to you. And the thing is, it's such a common experience. It's a damn near global experience for black Muslims. And I'm like, aren't y'all tired? Y'all are not tired of Abrahamic faith as a whole yet? You got a whole group of people pretending to be you. There are so many rabbis. Let me not even go there. Let me not even go there because I still haven't finished reading this thing and I still haven't started making my thumbnail with you guys. Ongoing debates and perspectives today. You've got some generational shifts in the black community. So black Americans are more religious than the general US population, and we have always been, right? However, the younger generations are increasingly identifying as religiously unaffiliated. So there's there's a medium-sized exodus. We haven't all left the church, but a lot of us have. It's not like a mass exodus of Negroes leaving the church, but it's sizable enough, right? And then, of course, you have, well, what is basically my argument today. My argument today is about it being the white man's religion. Some black atheists and secularists question whether black people should embrace a religion used by their oppressors. I'm not trying to pray to the same God as you. I'm sorry. Because look at who that God is answering. If I'm praying for my freedom and they're praying to oppress, who is that God? Whose prayer is that? Your will be done on earth as it is. Whose will is being done? I don't want to share a God with a white supremacist. I don't want to share a God with a person who's anti-black and feels like their God supports that. And feels like I wouldn't even feel like when I was a religious, I didn't even feel like heaven would be accessible to me if I was a racist, if I was anti anybody based on the color of their skin. Now, lucky me, whatever, I just get to not be racist or whatever. But I'm like, even the thought, like, I've never been in a fight with somebody and the first thing that came out of my mouth was their slur. You know how people say, oh, I just said nigger on accident. You know, it just came up, Paula Dean and all these celebrities who end up calling people the N word. I'm like, I've never, ever in my millennial life gotten to an argument with a Mexican. And the first thing I think to say is wetback. Even giving you the example does something weird to my body. Spick, wop, kike. Like it's never happened for me. I don't possess what makes you do that to people. I don't have we don't have it. I didn't think I could even pray to God and have that kind of thing in my heart. Now, of course, there's the come as you are thing, and I'm not going to tell you there's anything wrong or false about that. But I believe that there are things you can do to put barriers between yourself and God, and human trafficking is one of them. Fight your mama. I don't care. I just don't think there's any God worthy of worship that has anything to do with that. I don't believe that there is any God worthy of worship that is going to be the patron deity of fucking child traffic, human traffic. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. So, this view posits that Christianity has been whitewashed and defies European culture, um, defines European culture at the expense of Black culture and Black experiences. So, there's a call here for authentic Black theology. Others argue that Black people should reclaim Christianity by developing their own biblical interpretations centered on their history and lived experiences. They emphasize that Jesus was of Afro-Asiatic descent and that the arrogance of whiteness has worked to make Christianity an exclusively white religion. There are so many people who are just like, oh, Ethiopians had Christianity first, because this is something that I used to say. So I'm not like trying to call you stupid or nothing for saying it. Like, oh, the first church was the Ethiopian church. Nah. just not. I thought so too. I thought so too. And hear me out, because if you're talking about the tribe of Judah, if you're talking about Abyssinia, it's not the little tiny Ethiopia that you think of today. It was a huge region. And Jesus, if he existed, he definitely existed in the color of, that specific group of people, which would be considered a Black African. Um, but when we get into Charlemagne Erskine, right? And Charlemagne Erskine came up to me just because Charlemagne is one of my ancestors. You can't really have Charlemagne, the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. That is who Charlemagne Erskine is. And obviously, my ancestors were colonized by Europeans. And it's very, very, very hard to have European ancestry without being somehow related to Charlemagne. But actually, my great, 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 like, I don't know, like 12th, 18th great grandmother is Margaret Erskine. And she was the mistress, not the wife, the mistress of King James Stewart, who was the King of Scotland. So it's an ironic thing for me to be going through, because I've been on ancestrydna.com for half of forever. Me and my mom, we do this genealogy stuff. But then to have the TikTok craze where it's like, oh, we're meeting Black people from Scotland. I'm just like, yo, do I need to relocate? Like, I come from here for real. On my grandmother's side, it's eerie to be a Black American when you realize you only got a few generations of Blackness, and then the further you go back, your whole family white. It gives a new meaning to, like, communicating with your ancestors. It's freaky. And a lot of Black Americans, when they do their genealogy, they run into that issue, and it can be very emotional and very traumatic to expect to keep seeing, Black people because you're so Black. Because I'm so Black. And you get past the first, second, maybe third generation of y'all, and then everybody else is white. It's like, well, wait a goddamn minute. But yeah, so literally, Margaret Erskine, she is the daughter of this Charlemagne. The daughter, the granddaughter, whatever. But the point is, this was the emperor of the Romans. This is the person who did all of the shit. Like, oh God. The Frankish king. So 748 to 1814, he was the king of the Franks, in Western and Central Europe in the early Middle Ages. His coronation as Emperor of the Romans. Let's see, his reign culminated with his coronation by Pope Leo III on Christmas Day. So this is a guy who literally on Christmas, right? It's supposed to be the Jesus birthday. It's not, but we're going to go with it. It's pagan, but pagans are the worst thing to be, but we'll go with it. On Christmas Day, he was coronated as the Emperor of the Romans. And he's the forerunner of the Holy Roman Empire. So while Charlemagne's empire, the Carolingian Empire, fractured after his death, his imperial title is considered the starting point for what would later become the Holy Roman Empire. That Catholic Church. And if you look at the history of this man, it's enough to traumatize you. Just reading it, you don't even have to. There's no need to live through it. There's no need to. The level of slaughter, the level of manifest destiny, the level of I have a right to kill all of these people because they're brown and I'm not, and God told me to. Charlemagne's last words were before he died. So let's see. King of the Franks and the Emperor of the Romans in the late 8th and 9th centuries, noted for the expansion of the Frankish kingdom in his 46-year reign. Here we are. Lord, into thy hands I commend my spirit. What would make you do all of that and think you have a relationship with God if your God ain't on demon time like you are? And by the way, Charlemagne as a name, you notice that Charles sounds like Charles. So Charlemagne or like it looks like it says Charlemagne, right? If you let me type this into the chat really quick. It looks like it says Charlemagne, like Charlemagne the God, right? What's his name? If you take that Charlotte and that Magni, you know how the word magnify, to make something bigger, to make something greater, and then that Charlotte is Charles. So Charlemagne literally means Charles the Great, and his most senior descendant is King Charles of today. His most senior, in power, in control progeny, offspring of today is right, because today's King Charles is the I was about to call him the daughter of Queen Elizabeth II. Child, y'all know what I meant. So this person who spread all this Christianity, who spread all this Catholicism, you wonder why, if you look at these European royals, their real names are not just like, your Royal Highness. It's literally like something like your God, Christian chosen of the church, Royal Highness. Like, let me find the complete title of the Queen Elizabeth. It's something like your churchly chosen. Here it is. It says official title during her reign: Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of other realms and territories, Queen, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith. Defender of the faith, King Charles. The child of this woman is a defender of the faith. What is the faith? The faith is Christianity. All these bodies of children in boarding schools by the hundreds. That's the faith. Colonization from sea to shining sea under the banner of the cross. Y'all, that's the faith. That's her whole. Let me share my screen because sharing. Stop sharing. Share screen. The complete title of the Queen Elizabeth. And so obviously her son inherits the title as well. But this shit is all done in the name of the Lord, you guys. This shit is all done in the name of the same Lord. You worship the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I mean, I would be outraged. Racism is done in the anti-blackness in the name of the Lord, defender of the faith. Y'all see this? Official title during her reign: Elizabeth II. All right, Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of her other realms and territories, Queen, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith. So that title then falls to her son. Her Royal Highness Princess of York, Her Royal Highness the Princess Elizabeth, Her Royal Highness Princess Elizabeth, Duchess of Edinburgh. So many of my European ancestors go back to Edinburgh, and Edinburgh is in Scotland. Her Majesty the Queen, blah 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 blah, regal name, blah blah. Her official title, by the grace of God, of Great Britain, Ireland, the British dominions beyond the seas. So think Canada, think Jamaica, think all these places that are trying to be free from the Queen, Queen, defender of the faith. Proclaimed as Queen using that title in South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom. She was proclaimed in all those places. She was proclaimed as Queen Elizabeth II by the grace of God. By the grace of, like, the mercy and the grace of God gifted us this woman. queen of this realm. Good God Almighty. By the grace of God, queen of this realm and of her other realms and territories. What in the Daenerys Stormborn Targaryen, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith? They never say this stuff out loud. They just be like, oh, King Charles. Oh, Prince Harry. Oh, Prince William. Oh, like, no, defender of the faith. This, that Christianity. This, that Roman Catholic. Y'all see these weddings. Y'all see these pappies, these papals, these, this is why, and I come from a couple of different Scottish families. I come from a different. Would you chase your lineage? You're just a mutt. I'm a dog. I'm a mutt. But I come from the Stuarts, and the Stuarts eventually. England tried to take over the Stuarts. The Stuarts were like, hell no. But eventually there was a marriage. And so the crowns were combined. But the Stuart kings, I don't even know if I have time to get into the Stuart kings and who the Stuarts were and what they did, and the Jacobite Rising, and the McGregors, and the Mackenzies, and the McDonalds, and the McDowells, and I don't know if I have time to get into that. Or Rob Roy, who Robin Hood is actually based on. Rob Roy is I think I am a little bit proud of to have Rob Roy as an ancestor. Not, look at you, Zero. Charles, man. Hey, DC. Uh, right, right, right. The first church was the Roman Church of Constantinople, but the religion of Jesus was known as the Way. And that's in the Bible. And of course, Zero, I'm not surprised that you're educated on this at all. But the first thing, the proper thing that a Christian was called was a follower of the way. Like literally, like there's some kind of like ichthus, the followers of the way, a little fish sign, because Jesus is like, oh, I'm going to make you guys fishers of men. They use these little signs to, are you a follower of the way? And let me add to that, Islam. Islam is not called Islam. It's called Deen al-Islam. Deen al-Islam. It's not called Islam. Deen al is it's the way of Islam. So followers of the way, followers of the way. A Muslim is a Islam, a person who follows the way of Islam. So followers of the way is what it's called in the Bible. I think Christians were not called Christians until at Antioch or Pentecost, and it was supposed to be some derogatory speaking of the Black people of Scotland. It only took me a week until the Africans. Oh my God, we were so happy. We were so happy with the Scots. We were so happy with the Scots, and the Scots were so happy with us. But there are people who are just bent on hating Black Americans. My white family are part of the French car company Renault. Hey, Europeans bastardized Christianity. Charlemagne. The demonization of the pagan religion started in the 1600s during the Age of Enlightenment, when the church were losing more and more followers to those religions. So they lied and said they were demonic. Yeah, they lied and said that they were demonic. And to this day, when people think demonic, they think of us. I'll never forget when that cop killed Michael Brown. I think it was Mike Brown. And the cop was on the stand talking about he looked like a demon. And I'm just like, what do you know about what a demon looks like? But your hair texture, your facial features, all of that stuff is demonized. Anything that comes from you is wrong. To ask such a question is not understand what the Bible is all about, what it shows and what it teaches. Okay, Troy. Then the church added certain pagan holidays to keep their followers around, like Easter, Christmas, All Hallows Eve. Exactly. It's like, oh, we're going to be so holy, but let's incorporate this Christmas. Literally, the Bible has a verse, and I learned this as Jehovah's Witness. I told y'all I've been seeking. I told y'all I went from this church to that kingdom hall to this Synagogue. I went all over the place looking for God. I went all over the place seeking. There's literally passages in the Bible that says, "And cursed are your decorated trees." Huh? What you mean? Merry Christmas? And cursed are your decorated trees and celebrations, blah, 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 pagan, this and that. It's in there. Google it. Just go to Google and put Bible, cursed decorated trees. That's all you got to do. Hell, your braided hair is cursed. I mean, braids. Shit. Polyester. Cursed. Shit. People like, oh, you can't wear tattoos. Like in the same place it says you can't wear tattoos, it says you can't mix fabric, my guy. You gotta tear down your whole house if you get mold, my guy. What law are you following? But yeah, so even Easter is dead ass goddess worship. Easter is literally a form of the name of the goddess that Yahweh was said to be the consort of. Easter, Estor, Astaroth, Athrat, uh, Inanna. You know how in the Bible it says they tear down a bunch of Asherahs and they're like, take all the Asherahs out of the church, or Asherah, take all the Asherahs out of the church, blah blah blah, however you want to say it, Asherah, Asherah, Ashtra, Ashtra, Ashtoreth, Easter. That's her. So literally, in the Bible, like especially the one that we have from the King James, who did all that editing or whatever, they did their best to kick Asherah out of the Bible, and then the Christians came right back around and were just like, "Oh, by the way, Happy Easter. Let's make it about the resurrection of Jesus." Like this is a solstice. Like this is very pagan. Um, Give me a minute.
As a daughter of an immigrant, it is imperative that Black people from other places understand the disparate difference that they exist from Black people in the United States. It is not the same. Period. And ultimately, the best effort that we can do as a diaspora is to lead in understanding, not in judgment. So when I am talking to somebody from Sudan, from the Congo, from Angola, I am listening to understand their experience, not to undermine it. And I refuse to allow anybody from Grenada, from Angola, from any other place to come and try to undermine the experience of Black Americans.
I love that you did that. I love what you did here, Arniba. Um, you find you find this repeated in history. The Tao is the way. Followers of the actual Christ, if he ever existed, were called followers of the way. You have people who are followers of a certain way of life. And, I have theories about that. When I look at Tartaria, when I look at all these ancient kingdoms, when I look at all these Black, beautiful Aborigine people who existed all over the world, and all these great big, during the time of giants and whatever else before, Christianity is one of the youngest religions on earth, maybe just a little bit like older than the Baha'i faith, but like one of the youngest religions on earth. And there was just a way. We don't got no name for it. We just know what it is, and it's the way. It's the way, the truth, and the light. It just is the way. And I think that's how everybody started. In any language, and on any continent, in any place, you could find the way. And that, distortion. Even Islam, I mean, I already talked about that, but Islam talks about the I'm non-denominational, have been for over half my life. Tattoos too. Right, exactly. The only time Amanda wasn't talking crazy about Black Americans, but I still don't trust her. Yikes, I didn't know that she had ever said anything weird about Black Americans. Yeshua is real, he existed, he is historically known. Okay, so for the most part, I believe that this is a person who existed. It's just that there's so much conflict around his existence that I try to give people. I'm like this. You gotta exist if somebody sets the year based off your death, right? We have, BC and AD. If all the years, if all the time is set around your birth, death, and during the time of your life, then you got to be real. But I want to share with you guys the video that did it for me. The video that did it for me today, and this video was the video of Empress Radio. Give me some time to pull up the right screen. All right, let's go to YouTube. She was just reporting on a news story, and I'm just like, why is it always you guys? Why is it always you? And it just made me really weary in my spirit.
And David Taylor, money laundering and forced locked up. I want to talk about these two church leaders that got locked up for conspiracy. It's a bunch of different charges: conspiracy, laundering, essentially running a cult. They were forcing the members into labor where they couldn't leave. It was a lot. So let's get into this article and then we'll show you the news story. So it says church leaders locked up in a multi state money laundering and forcing the members into labor investigation. So, the brief: the U.S. Department of Justice says federal agents locked up David Taylor and Michelle Brannon in separate raids on Wednesday. I forgot to say they even raided their houses. Anyway, investigators say the pair led the Kingdom of God Global Church and forced workers to be personal servants while using millions of dollars in donations to fund a lavish lifestyle. Taylor and Brannon face charges of forced labor, conspiracy to commit forced labor, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. So it says Tampa. The two church leaders have been locked up in an alleged multi-million dollar conspiracy after multiple FBI raids across the country on Wednesday morning, because they had like multiple churches across the country. Anyways, arrest of Michelle Brannon and David Taylor. What we know: the U.S. Department of Justice says Michelle Brannon, 56, and was locked up at a mansion near Tampa, while David Taylor, 53, was locked up in North Carolina. According to the DOJ, Taylor and Brannon are the leaders of the Kingdom of God Global Church, formerly known as Joshua Media Ministries International. Taylor refers to himself as apostle and to Brannon as his executive director. A 10-count indictment alleges that Taylor and Brannon ran call centers in Florida, Texas, Missouri, and Michigan to solicit donations to the church, of course. The pair convinced their victims to work at call centers and work for Taylor as personal servants, referred to as armor bearers, of course, for long hours without pay, according to the indictment. Federal investigators say Taylor and Brannon controlled every aspect of their the daily living of their victims who slept at the call center or in a ministry house and were not allowed to leave without permission. That's crazy. You see here the feds raiding their house. The indictment also says the suspect forced the victims to transport women to Taylor and ensure that those women took Plan B emergency contraceptives. Wow, so they're even forcing them to have Plan B. Dig deeper. The church received about $50 million in donations through its call centers dating back to 2014, according to the DOJ. So that's him in his mugshot. I don't know if they have hers. No. Okay, so you plaster his money. Anyway, I'm not even gonna get into it. But anyway, Taylor and Brannon are accused of using much of that money to buy luxury properties, luxury vehicles, and sporting equipment such as boats, jet skis, and ATVs. Going on right in your backyard. What they're saying, neighbors in Avila told Fox 13 they were stunned to see federal investigators in their community. It's very surprising to hear that type of thing was going right in your backyard. They said the mansion that was raided is among the largest you've seen in the neighborhood. According to records, it's a 10-bedroom, 10.5 bathroom, 28,000 square foot home sitting across 6 acres. It was last sold in 2022 for more than $8 million. Wow, they were coming up. Modern Set community members were surprised when Taylor purchased the home. Everyone was like, how could a pastor afford to live in a house like that? I mean, even some of the people who lived there couldn't afford to live in that particular house in there. I hope it's not true, but if it is, he deserves everything he's going to get. It's like a castle practically. Federal authorities haven't said whether human trafficking victims were rescued from their home. Wow, they're using human trafficking. What appeared to be a federal command center was set up nearby St. Joseph's Hospital, North and Lutz. Human trafficking advocates say if their victims in the home, they'd likely been taken to the hospital for treatment. Those who have been trafficked, there's going to be a tremendous amount of trauma, said Clara Reynolds, CEO of the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay, adding there's a lesson every community can learn about being vigilant. If this can happen in one of the most affluent zip codes in Hillsborough County, it can happen in your backyard. It can happen in my backyard. According to his YouTube page, Taylor was holding church service as recently as Sunday at his site in Taylor, Michigan. It all looks legal on its face, right? There's nothing illegal about a call center, and there's nothing illegal about a church. And so these things look totally fine on the surface. The only way that cases
I
like
want to
this come
hop
to
around
agents
just
also
to
raided a
honor her
hotel
video.
phone. Anyway, so that's the situation. All right, so you guys saw this article. So this was in the news and everything. So I got this on YouTube, obviously, but this is
CBS News Detroit's Veronica Ortega joins us live in Taylor with more on the investigation.
Shayna, Terrence, more than 10 years ago, David E. Taylor opened up his first church and call center here in Taylor, Michigan. The founder, along with his executive director, Brennan, were arrested today in North Carolina and Florida while their headquarters behind me was getting raided by the FBI. The organization, formerly known as Joshua Media Ministries International, has been described by some former members as a lifesaver.
This ministry changed my life, and I've witnessed so many people come off the streets. I've witnessed so many people just get delivered from drugs. I've seen so many people stop hating people.
These workers at the office building next door call it something else.
They say he runs a little cult over there. Those windows are always covered.
We don't see much action over there at all whatsoever.
The 23-page indictment issued by a federal grand jury in the Eastern...
It's the parishioners for me. And it's the parishioners for me because I remember, because I still love, like, I'm not talking about my mom's pastor. My mom's pastor is an upright man, but I chose a pastor for myself at a non-denominational church, and I'm not going to say his name. Even to this day, I guess I'm protective, but I love that man. I believed in that man. I would follow that man. That man edified my spirit, like spoke to me in a way. And I don't mean to me personally. We didn't have a personal relationship, but I'm just saying I was the kind of Christian I was every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, and every other Saturday. Always, always. Bible study, praise team, choir rehearsal, Sunday mornings, volunteering for the food bank, like always there. And he went to jail for like 10 years for a Ponzi scheme. I think he's out now, but he went for like 10 years. And to this day, I love this man, but I'm just like, I have seen the little old women that he, $175,000 from her, $100,000 from her, just shit. But the parishioners be so faithful and be so loyal and be so, I think that's why I react to certain people the way that I do. The Cynthia G's and the Queen Shebas of the world, like, because I know how vulnerable people can be in their loyalty. And when you're a beautiful person, you don't expect people to be being so ugly with you. And it's hard to even, when you're beautiful on the inside, it's so hard to even think people are going to be that ugly, that treacherous, that, you're being sincere with somebody who's being strategic with you. And you have no even idea about what monster your leader is, because you only see the world through your lens. But it's the parishioners, because there's another one in the video. It's just like, oh, God allows this for us, and God does. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's human trafficking. Wake up. It's so hard for people to leave communities that they're comfortable in. It's so hard for people to divorce themselves from a fucked up leader, especially when that fucked up leader never did you nothing. And I think that's what a lot of people do. And the thing that I've committed to in myself is, I don't have to bite the donut to know that it's sweet. You don't have to traffic me for me to feel a way about you. Diddy don't have to traffic me for me to feel a way about him. R. Kelly didn't have to have me out there in my preteens for me to have an issue. But there are people who, unless it's them or somebody they know, he ain't never did me nothing. They never did. And I'm like, I know, but that's not enough.
District of Michigan outlines the allegations against David E.
Another parishioner is coming here, and let me.
The call center unpaid.
My understanding was people voluntarily come here, and they don't have to be here.
Since 2014, the organization received $50 million
So victim blaming. We do that when we're in a cult.
in donations, all of it apparently used to fund the luxury lifestyle of the church leaders. These documents state that if workers didn't make their daily quota, they were allegedly punished both physically and mentally, including humiliation, sleep deprivation, and forced repentance.
I used to be a part of this ministry. I walked away because I wanted to. I wasn't forced. Nobody forced me to be here.
Another accusation is that the founder enlisted armor bearers to act as his personal servants. They would allegedly transport women from ministry houses to Taylor's location and ensure those women took Plan B emergency contraceptives.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
he's just a womanizer.
Despite the allegations and
Oh
possible
my
prison
God.
time, at least one former church member is standing by the leaders and his beliefs.
That's if Father God allows that. Ain't nobody gonna make him do nothing that Father God don't allow.
You see, this is how faith fucks you up. This is how, because you just get to blame everything on God. It's the brainwashing, it's the grooming. You get to this confident place where you're just like, well, God is in control. God got her. It's like, she gonna be all right. God got her. And she done drowned and trafficked and thrown in the middle of the sea with weights on her because somebody didn't want to know. They knocked up a preteen. Like, oh God, God is in control. Okay, well, sure. And we say that like this panacea, like this just, we get to wipe everything away. We don't have to be responsible for shit because God is in control. We don't have to hold each other accountable for shit because, God got it. He got it. I mean, we get to shrug off all levels of righteousness, all levels of divine duty, all levels of righteous indignation. Like, we get to divorce ourselves from doing the right thing and make it look pretty and make it look ordained.
Now, the FBI is still here on scene. They can be seen coming in and out of this building behind me, loading evidence into the truck.
10 toes, Zero. And I can't even complain because I remember my 10 toes. I'm a 10 toes kind of girl. And I remember being 10 toes down in the wrong direction. And I still don't hate that man. I still love that man. If I saw that pastor from the non-denominational church today, my eyes would fill with tears. And I would have to do my best not to throw myself onto him with open arms and a hug. You can't tell me that man didn't care about me. You can't tell me that man didn't minister to me. But at what point do I, as an adult, I have to say, just in spite of me, and in spite of what feels good to me, I have to hold you accountable. Because you know what I've been in the exact opposite seat. I've been in the exact opposite seat where people are like, oh, because there's a lot of content creators who have cult followings, and I have been on the worser end of that shit. And I'm just like, people are so inspired by some people who have done me in the worst way, who have doxed me in the worst way, who have bullied, harassed, gang stalked me in the worst way. And they continue supporting that because that person inspired them. That person cares about them. That person ministered to them. But from my vantage point, I'm like, you're empowering somebody who destroys other people at will, at whim, and for no righteous reason, just jealousy, afraid to see you glow up, come up, mad that you don't fall in order. Bitch, I'm autistic. I don't do that. I have to think everything through on my own. And then if my brain confirms you, I will follow you, friend you, be loyal to you. And if my brain does not confirm, there's nothing I can do with you. I cannot help you with that. I'm not wired like that. I am neurodivergent. It's not even about you. It's about the way my brain and my empathy and my social justice moral compass works. But so I have had to put myself in a position where I love that man, support that man. He was a good pastor to me, ministered to my mind, my soul, inspired me. To this day, I carry lessons. But I'm like, dude, this little old lady is out of $175,000. What's she going to do? Where's she going to retire? What nursing home she going to go to? Huh? What's she going to do? But die a real slow, real uncomfortable death. Because you took advantage of her faith in you. I can't then go on and on about how you're good to me when you cost somebody their life. I see Barack Obama and I blush. If I could just keep it real, I see him and I blush. When I catch myself skinning and grinning at Barack Obama, I have to skip the video because he's a war criminal and he just so happened to be responsible for killing someone who is responsible for, I mean, of course, I regret my decision of, converting to Islam, but the man who ministered to my spirit was Anwar al-Awlaki, and he had a son, Abdurrahman al-Awlaki. And they were both born in New Mexico. They were both American citizens. Like, you couldn't even like, oh, you're Arab, you're from somewhere else. Nah, bro. All Americans, no trial, extrajudicial killing. I saw with my own eyes. Blew that man up so bad there was nothing left. I was literally debating. I'm like, either I'm going to go to the Awlak Mountains and be the student of Amr al-Awlaki, or I'm going to go to this Islamic online university and be the student of Dr. Bilal Phillips. I gave myself a choice. He blew my teacher up in front of me. I'm very impressed with the Obamas. I'm very impressed with Sasha, Malia, Michelle, Barack. But even in you never having done nothing to me, that was an American citizen who didn't get habeas corpus, who didn't get due process. How do you violate that? How do you violate due process on somebody who got as many stars and stripes as you do? Hell, Obama was at least born, I don't know, I guess Hawaii, whatever. But, dad from Kenya. I'm like, these two are from here. They just so happen to be Arab. They just so happen to be Muslim. Why? And what did the little boy do? What did Abdurrahman do? Abdurrahman was a little 16-year-old kid. He grew out his hair and shaped it like an afro, and he would just have Tupac in his headphones. But Anwar al-Awlaki was he was the Arab Malcolm X. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. If you want to Anwar al-Awlaki, type in the Hereafter series, Anwar al-Awlaki, and the brain on this man, the charisma on this man, the everything on this man could talk a person he could talk you out of drugs, he could talk you out of fornication, he had a real big hold on the Muslim community. And that was his crime, is that he had a hold on the minds of the Muslim community. He's like, all this Palestine stuff is wrong, bro. All this, you guys dropping bombs on my city, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna have to go home and defend my city because you won't stop. Like, America, this is wrong. These are my ancestral lands. Like, what are you doing? You can't treat people like this. And instead of crying about a Palestine or crying about a Yemen, he went home and did something about it. Now, of course, we have no proof. We have no proof that he was any kind of terrorist or anything, or any kind of jihadi or any of that stuff. Those words were really big back then. But just whoever was going to blow away his family, he's like, I'm going to stand in defense of these people. They're mine. Who wouldn't do the same thing? Who wouldn't stand in defense of their mom, their siblings, where they're from? I see Memphis, Tennessee, and this Grok, this Colossus computer, this 2.5 football field size Elon Musk polluting the hell out of Memphis, and I want to fight. I want to fight. I hear that there's another supercomputer thing being built in Louisiana, and the first thing I do is go to the computer and try to see how close it is to Shreveport. This is the first thing I do. Because Caddo Parish and Bossier Parish, those are my ancestral lands. And I don't want Elon Musk anywhere near there. The place where Mark Zuckerberg is building his own little AI thing, it's around Lake Charles, and it's between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And that place, you know what they call that motherfucker? They call that motherfucker Cancer Alley, bitch. They call that thing Cancer Alley because you walk your black ass over there. Just with the fuck shit that they have going on in the name of AI and in the name of being billionaires. You walk your black ass through there, it's 20 miles long. You walk your black ass through there, you're going to come out with cancer. Think of all the people who live there. who had no idea, who were too poor to move, who got Hurricane Katrina half to fucking death. And they always put this shit with our people. That makes me Anwar al-Awlaki mad. That makes me want to go fight for my people. That makes me want to go defend my people. And there's nothing wrong with that. You have certain unalienable rights, and among those, life, liberty, and the pursuit of life. You can't just go to people's communities and sentence them to death in the most ugly and painful of deaths. Cancer of the I didn't even know that organ existed. You can't expect people not to want to defend. But you as president would turn on your own American citizen. This is the reason why Mark Lamont Hill got blacklisted. Because there are so many journalists, and I majored in journalism, so obviously this is a big deal to me, but Mark Lamont Hill was one of the only people who was willing to call Obama a war criminal. So every time he would be invited to the White House, all of a sudden he'd show up at the White House and his name would not be on the list. What did Mark Lamont Hill do to any of us? We only know Mark. He's the one who's on that Joe Budden podcast today, right? We only ever know him. We know him to be a man of integrity. We know him not to lie. We know him to he's a PhD. He's a brother. I mean, a Dr. Malachi York, like just brother. And I'm not praising Dr. Malachi York. I'm saying like Mark Lamont Hill is a black man who loves black people, who loves black women, who has a dark-skinned wife, who has talked about having this awkward belief about light-skinned people being evil. And he said that shit in front of Joe Budden, Melissa Ford, and everybody else on the podcast is light-skinned, and he didn't give a shit. And it's crazy because he's the darkest person there, and he has the highest moral caliber there. So it's like, I see why you still kind of believe that shit. Mark Lamont Hill is a man who stays above reproach. The Obamas want nothing to do with him because he had to keep it real. Because that's what you have to do when you're a journalist, and that's why it's not no punk bitch profession. Because you have to tell the truth. Like, yeah, he's swaggy, he's handsome, he's fine, he's educated, he's so ideal in so many ways. Swagged out for days, tan Easter suit on Christmas. Memeable, quotable. But look who you took from me. So yeah, I'm inclined to fangirl over you, but I have to do what's right if I expect other people to do what's right. I have to do what's fair if I expect other people to do what's fair, even at personal cost to them. I had somebody the other day call me messy and like whatever else, and I'm just like, you know what? I defend people who deserve defending, and sometimes at personal cost. I stand against people who ought to be stood against, even at personal cost. I get it. She's pretty, she's successful, blah 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 blah. You want to be like her, she inspires you, but this is the truth. And I get into that kind of trouble all the time, but I remember, I know what it's like to be on the other side of a powerhouse influencer and be completely wronged to the point of wondering if it's worth it to live through it. So I do for others what wasn't often done for me. And I get to go to bed at night knowing that, yeah, I did the difficult thing, but I also did the right thing. As much as I'm dissatisfied with Trump and with Biden, is like, I can't just Obama away I can't just tan Easter suit away his neglect of the Black American community. I can't do that for Kamala either. Hell yeah, I voted for her. Hell yeah, I'm in the 92%. But her stance on Israel was shitty too. She laughed the damn interviewer out of the room when they said, "Are you going to do anything for African Americans?" No, I'm not going to do anything specifically to benefit Black Americans. And I'm like, well, you sure did something to specifically benefit those damn what's her other half, Indian? I mean, over 500,000 visas somewhere for that many people to come over here. And I'm not saying anything's wrong about it, but I'm like, you have done, all the presidents have done things to specifically benefit certain groups. But whenever you're asked about an African American, about reparations, about specifically benefiting us, every fucking body is quiet. I can't silk press that away. Yeah, Kamala, you pretty, you swaggy, you AKA, you got, your silk press and you laugh like us and you put hot sauce on your food. I can't hot sauce that away. I can't shared culture that away. Because you're swaggy, because you're pretty, because you're powerful, because you inspire so many people. I wept. Obama was the first president I elected. And when I saw him winning, I collapsed into my knees. I had my knees by my chest. And, my mom was like, "Oh, chocolate." I was so happy. I was so happy. I sobbed like that little thing in the Bible is like, "Oh, Jesus wept." I sobbed. And then he killed my teacher and his son. It's like other people don't care. I'm like, you didn't know him, you didn't care. It's like I will catch myself scrolling and I'll start listening to Farrakhan. And he'll be talking some truth and I'm just like, "Oh fuck." And I gotta scroll away because you killed Malcolm. I cannot sit with you. You killed him. You killed him. And that's why that's why you get to walk around here black as fuck and being your bliggity black self and whatever else, because this nation, this government is in debt to you. You killed Malcolm. Betty knows you did it. Coretta knows you did it. His eldest daughter knows you did it. Attila knows you did it, and she had to go to jail. Somebody set her up, framed her, some kind of FBI, CIA, whatever, for her to, knock Farrakhan off the planet. And she was bugged and hot wired and whatever. And like, you're still destroying this man's family. Hell, her son had to move in with his grandmother, Betty Shabazz, and he was struggling and having a hard time without his mom and was trying to get out the house and thought to himself, well, Grandpa Malcolm's house was bombed and, grandma left, blah, blah, blah. Maybe if I burn this one up. And you know what Betty did? She walked through the fire to get her grandson, and that's how she died. One of the last things she said when she roasted through so fucking bad. One of the last things she said was water. I don't think the boy meant to kill his grandmother, but I think the boy was troubled because his mother had been taken from him because of Farrakhan, the same man who took his grandfather, took his mother too. Didn't kill her, but incarcerated, whatever, absent mom. And I'm like, yeah, Farrakhan will talk his shit. Of course, he comes from the same nation of Islam Malcolm came from. Sure. I can't sit with you, though. My heart is with Malcolm. And my heart has been with Malcolm a long time. I think I was 6 years old when I discovered Malcolm. I hope Barack's Victory '08 campaign, which I regret after knowing what I know about the Democratic Party. I was literally on the news, Zero. I was on national news. Because even before I was able to vote for Obama, I would go to his rallies and people were calling him anti-Muslim. And back then, I had just converted. And so there were these big things, like people were calling me from New York, calling me from other cities. They're like, "Oh my God, Chocolate, you're on the news." And he's like, "This is me and Muslims." I'm literally one of the images that was used to help promote his campaign. ripped the earth from up under me when I turned on the news and Anwar was just gone. I kind of feel that way, you. I kind of feel that way. Not you with a not you with a picture of Jesus in the mirror. What is going on here? I needed that laugh. Thank you. The wife of the older brother said that they were all in the house that day, and why the two were taken down is odd. Right, right, right. House full of people when Abdurrahman al-Awlaki was assassinated. House full of people. Didn't give two shits. What did them kids do? It was like a house party or something like you know how them Yemeni weddings be hella long. They be like a week long. Kamala never did anything for us except this injustice and had stuff taken away from black people like Nina Simone's estate from her for some white people. I heard about that. Farrakhan is the only dude I know that can lie and tell the truth off at the same time. I always had a bad feeling about him. I don't know why people act like they don't know who did it. Everybody knows who did it. Have the whole nation of Islam knows Farrakhan killed Malcolm. And when you listen to some of their stuff, you know, being all super black the way that I used to be, you know, you drift into different pro-black people. And, you know, some of them are proud. Some of them are proud of the fact that he offed Malcolm. Malcolm went against the messenger and he learned. Lord have mercy. I don't know what to say to a person who doesn't know that being on the opposite side of Malcolm is being on the wrong side of history. Zero, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Yeah, I was deeply involved. He was my first. He was my first president. I was so in shock when he took out Anwar. I couldn't vote. I couldn't vote again. I was just like, I don't want to be responsible. I mean, I have voted again, but like the next term and then, you know, president after that, I was shell shocked. And I'm like, I'm shocked like this over one person. So all of what happens in Palestine, all of what happens to Libya, all these number of people, this number of children, this number of, I'm like, I can't breathe. I have survivor's remorse. There's a miniseries proving it, and they're still pretending like there was no justice. Yeah, no, that nigga Farrakhan got immunity for doing that shit, and he got hella help. He got help from the white man that is supposed to be so bad. Malcolm said something like only a Muslim, and he didn't mean like Orthodox Muslim. He meant like the Black nationalist movement of, you know, Muslim temple number 1, 2, 3, whatever. He was like, only a Muslim knows how to take out a Muslim. Only we know how to get to us. So when they wired his car and his car was bombed, he's like, yeah, I taught the person, the person who hot wired my car. I taught him how to do it. Get your hand out my pocket, nigga. I vote today. I voted in the last, clearly I voted for Kamala, but I was so shocked that I chose the hand that killed Anwar that I didn't vote for the next two elections. I was in so much shock. All right, you guys, I have clearly overwhelmed myself here, so I'm gonna go.